The research vessel Horizon's Edge drifted quietly through the dark space near the Outer Rim territories. Inside the ship, Dr. Ethan Brooks sat at his workstation, studying samples of alien plant life they had collected from the last moon. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. At 32 years old, he had dedicated his life to understanding the creatures and plants that existed beyond Earth. Ethan loved his work. He loved the peaceful exploration missions that humanity sent out into the galaxy. For the past 5 years, Earth had been reaching out to other species, trying to build friendships and share knowledge. It was a nice change from the old days when humans spent most of their time fighting each other. The ship carried 12 people total. There was Captain Lisa Monroe, who commanded the vessel with quiet confidence. Lieutenant Jake Morrison handled security, though they rarely needed it. Amy Chen managed communications. The rest were scientists like Ethan, all excited to explore and learn. "Ethan, come look at this," called Dr. Sophie Miller from across the lab. She was studying star charts, trying to map the unexplored regions they were passing through. Ethan walked over to her station. "What did you find?" "These readings are strange. There's a lot of ship activity in this sector, but it's not on any of the official trade routes." Sophie frowned at her screen. "Should we report it to Lisa?" Before Ethan could answer, the ship's alarm blared throughout the corridors. The lights shifted to red. Amy's voice came over the intercom, tight with worry. "All hands, we have multiple vessels approaching at high speed. They're not responding to our hails." Ethan and Sophie rushed to the bridge. Captain Lisa stood at the center, watching the main screen. 5 large ships surrounded them, each twice the size of the Horizon's Edge. They were dark green, covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. Ethan recognized them immediately from the briefings Earth Command had given them. Calrix Empire ships. The Calrix were a reptilian species that controlled 17 star systems. They were known for being aggressive and territorial. Earth's diplomats had tried to establish friendly contact several times, but the Calrix mostly ignored humanity. They saw humans as newcomers to the galaxy, barely worth their attention. "This is Captain Lisa Monroe of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge," Lisa said calmly into the communications channel. "We are on a peaceful research mission. We mean no harm and are not in any restricted territory." Static crackled for a moment. Then a rough, hissing voice responded. "Human ship, you will power down your engines and surrender. Resistance will result in your destruction." Lisa looked at Jake, who shook his head. Their small research vessel had minimal weapons, nothing that could stand against 5 Calrix warships. "We are civilians," Lisa tried again. "We have no military value. Please let us leave peacefully. You have 10 seconds to comply." Lisa's jaw tightened. She looked around at her crew, at the scientists who had trusted her to keep them safe. Then she nodded. "Power down the engines. Do not resist." The next few minutes passed in tense silence. A docking tube extended from the lead Calrix ship and attached to their hull with a heavy clang. The airlock door hissed open, and Calrix soldiers poured into the Horizon's Edge. Ethan had seen pictures of the Calrix before, but seeing them in person was different. They stood over 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales. Their eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and their mouths held rows of sharp teeth. Each soldier carried a weapon that crackled with blue energy. The Calrix commander entered last. He was larger than the others, with red markings across his scales. "I am Commander Thrax," he announced in heavily accented English. "You are now prisoners of the Calrix Empire. On what grounds?" Lisa demanded. "We have violated no laws. We are in neutral space." Thrax laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Humans think they have rights in our galaxy. You are wrong. You are weak. You are new. You will learn your place." The Calrix soldiers forced the crew to line up. Thrax walked along the line, studying each person. When he reached Ethan, he stopped. He leaned in close, his breath hot and smelling of sulfur. "What is your function?" Thrax asked. "I'm a scientist," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I study alien biology." Thrax's eyes narrowed. Then he grabbed Ethan by the arm, his scaled hand incredibly strong. "This one comes with me." "He will be useful." "No!" Lisa stepped forward, but a Calrix soldier struck her with the butt of his weapon. She fell to the floor, blood running from her temple. Jake started to move, but Amy grabbed his arm, stopping him. They were surrounded, outgunned. Any resistance would get them all killed. Thrax dragged Ethan toward the airlock. Ethan struggled, but it was useless. The Calrix commander was far too strong. As they pulled him away, Ethan locked eyes with Lisa, who was being helped up by Sophie. "Don't do anything stupid," Ethan called out. "I'll be okay. Just get everyone home safe." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. They took him aboard the Calrix command ship. The interior was dark and hot, designed for reptilian comfort. They threw him into a small cell with metal walls. The door sealed with a heavy sound that echoed in the confined space. Ethan sat on the hard bench that served as a bed. His hands were shaking. He tried to calm himself, to think logically like a scientist. The Calrix had taken him for a reason. They thought he had value. That meant they probably wouldn't kill him right away. Hours passed. Ethan had no way to tell time in the windowless cell. Eventually, the door opened again. 2 Calrix guards entered and pulled him to his feet. They marched him through the corridors to a large chamber. Thrax stood at the center, surrounded by communication equipment. A camera was pointed at a chair in the middle of the room. The guards forced Ethan into the chair and bound his hands. "You are going to help me send a message to your Earth," Thrax said. He moved to the camera and activated it. "Humans of Earth, I am Commander Thrax of the Calrix Empire. We have captured one of your people. If you wish to see him again, you will meet our demands." Thrax walked over to a display screen and pulled up a list. "You will provide us with your ship construction technology. You will surrender all territorial claims in sectors 14 through 22. You will send us tribute of rare metals and advanced weapons. You have 72 hours to comply." The commander moved behind Ethan, placing a clawed hand on his shoulder. Ethan tried not to flinch. "If you refuse, this human will suffer. Then he will die. We will take more of your people. We will continue until you learn to obey." Thrax ended the transmission. He looked down at Ethan with what might have been a smile. "Your people will give us what we want. All species do, eventually. Humans are no different. You are weak, and the weak serve the strong." Ethan looked up at the Calrix commander. Despite his fear, despite being bound and helpless, he felt something else rising inside him. Not hope exactly, more like certainty. "You don't know humans very well," Ethan said quietly. Thrax laughed again. "We know enough. Now you will wait while your leaders decide how much you are worth to them." The guards dragged Ethan back to his cell. As the door sealed behind him, he sat in the darkness and thought about Earth. He thought about humanity's history, about the terrible wars they had fought, about the millions who had died before people learned to work together. The Calrix thought humans were weak because they explored peacefully. They thought Earth would negotiate, would bow to threats. They were wrong. Ethan knew what was coming. He just hoped he would survive long enough to see it. Admiral Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valiant, staring at the transmission that had arrived 20 minutes ago. He had watched it 4 times now, and each time his anger grew colder and sharper. On the screen, Ethan Brooks sat bound to a chair, while a Calrix commander made demands. Marcus had read Ethan's file. The young scientist had never served in the military. He studied plants and small creatures. He wrote papers about promoting peace between species. He had probably never hurt anyone in his entire life. And now he was a hostage. "Sir, we're receiving incoming communications from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Danny Wright from the communications station. "President Grant wants to speak with you directly." Marcus nodded. "Put her through." The screen changed to show President Victoria Grant in the Oval Office. She looked tired. It was 3 in the morning in Washington, but she had clearly been awake for a while. Behind her stood the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense. "Marcus, I assume you've seen the transmission," Victoria said without preamble. "Yes, Madam President. Multiple times. What's your assessment?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "The Calrix have made a significant mistake. They've taken an Earth citizen hostage and made public demands. If we negotiate, every hostile species in the galaxy will see us as weak. They'll take more hostages. This won't end with Ethan Brooks." Victoria nodded slowly. "My thoughts exactly. I've called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. All members are in agreement. We don't negotiate with hostage takers. We retrieve our people. What are my orders, ma'am? Send them a warning. 24 hours to return Dr. Brooks unharmed. After that, you have full authorization to use whatever force is necessary." Victoria's eyes were hard as steel. "Make sure they understand, Marcus. Make sure the whole galaxy understands. We don't leave our people behind." "Understood, Madam President." The transmission ended. Marcus stood silent for a moment. then turned to his communications officer. Danny, broadcast this message on all Calric's military channels. I want their entire leadership to hear it. Danny's fingers flew across his console. Ready, sir. You're live in 3, 2, 1. Marcus looked directly into the camera. When he spoke, his voice was calm and measured, but there was something underneath it, something that anyone who had served with him would recognize. Controlled fury. This is Admiral Marcus Cole of the Earth Defense Force. You are holding Dr. Ethan Brooks, a citizen of Earth. You have 24 hours to return him, unharmed, to neutral territory. If you comply, there will be no consequences. If you refuse, or if Dr. Brooks is harmed in any way, Earth will respond with the full might of our military forces. This is your only warning. Choose wisely. He signaled for Danny to end the transmission. The bridge crew remained silent, waiting. Sir, said Commander Helen Park, his second-in-command, do you think they'll comply? Marcus shook his head. No. The Calrics have never backed down from a threat. They see it as weakness. They're about to learn the difference between weakness and restraint. Across the galaxy in the Calric's command ship, Thrax watched Marcus's warning with several of his fellow commanders. When it ended, they looked at each other and laughed. These humans are amusing, said Commander Vrak, who controlled the Calric's Third Fleet. They send one small ship to warn us. They have been in space for less than a century. What could they possibly do to the mighty Calric's empire? Thrax nodded in agreement. They are bluffing, hoping we will be frightened by strong words. But words mean nothing. Power is what matters, and we have the power here. What will you do? Asked Vrak. I will show these humans what happens when they threaten the Calrics. Thrax turned to his guards. Bring the prisoner. Set up the camera again. They dragged Ethan from his cell. He had not slept much. The cell was too hot and his mind kept racing, wondering what would happen next. When they brought him to the same chamber as before, he saw the camera and felt his stomach drop. Thrax activated the recording. Humans of Earth, we received your Admiral's message. We are not impressed. You speak of warnings, but you are in no position to threaten the Calric's empire. To demonstrate our seriousness, your scientist will now suffer for your arrogance. Ethan tried to prepare himself, but nothing could have prepared him for the pain. The Calrics had devices that sent electrical currents through the body, causing every muscle to seize. They used it on him while the camera recorded. Ethan tried not to scream, but eventually he couldn't help it. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Thrax stopped. Ethan slumped in the chair, gasping for breath. His whole body trembled. You have 72 hours remaining, Thrax said to the camera. Each day you delay, the human suffers more. Eventually he will die. Then we will take another, and another, until you learn obedience. The transmission was sent across all channels. Within an hour, it reached Earth. On Earth, billions of people watched the broadcast. They saw Ethan Brooks, a kind scientist who had dedicated his life to learning, being tortured by aliens who thought humanity was weak. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Not fear, not submission, rage. Across every continent, people filled the streets demanding action, not protests asking the government to negotiate, protests demanding the military bring Ethan home, no matter the cost. President Victoria Grant called another emergency meeting. But this time it wasn't to debate. It was to plan. How long until our fleets can reach Calric space? She asked the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The Third Fleet is already in position, Madam President. They can begin operations within 6 hours. The Second and Fifth Fleets can arrive within 36 hours. And our special operations teams? Captain Monroe's team is already en route. They're our best for infiltration and extraction. Victoria nodded. Tell them to find Ethan Brooks and bring him home. As for the Calrics, she paused, looking around at her military advisors. Gentlemen, it's time to remind the galaxy why humanity nearly destroyed itself before we learned to work together. Show them what happens when that violence gets directed outward. On the Valiant, Admiral Marcus Cole received his updated orders. He read them twice to make sure he understood. Then he called his fleet captains together for a briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have confirmation that the Calrics have tortured Dr. Brooks. Earth Command has authorized Operation Thunderstrike. We are to enter Calric space and retrieve our citizen by any means necessary. Rules of engagement are unrestricted. If they fire on us, we respond with overwhelming force. If they harm Dr. Brooks further, we burn their empire to ash. One of the younger captains raised her hand. Sir, the Calrics have 17 colonized systems and a fleet 3 times the size of ours. Can we really win this? Marcus smiled, but there was no humor in it. Captain, the Calrics have never fought a total war. They have conquered weaker species through intimidation. But humanity? We perfected total war centuries ago. We know how to fight dirty. We know how to win at any cost. The Calrics are about to learn why every other human conflict ended when we decided to stop fighting each other. He pulled up tactical displays showing Calrics territory. Our special operations team will infiltrate and extract Dr. Brooks. While they do that, we're going to make sure every Calrics ship and military installation is too busy defending themselves to interfere. We're going to hit them harder and faster than they've ever been hit before. The fleet captains nodded, their faces grim and determined. One more thing, Marcus added. I know some of you are uncomfortable with what we're about to do. You signed up to defend Earth, not to wage war across the galaxy. But understand this. If we back down now, if we let the Calrics get away with taking and torturing our people, we might as well paint a target on every human in space. We show weakness now, and there will be more hostages. More torture. More deaths. He paused, letting that sink in. So we're going to send a message that echoes across every star system. A message so clear that no one will ever misunderstand it again. You do not touch humanity's people. Ever. In the darkness of his cell, Ethan Brooks tried to recover from the torture. His body ached everywhere. He knew it would happen again. Thrax had made that clear. But even through the pain, Ethan felt something unexpected. Not hope, exactly. More like certainty. Earth was coming. He knew it as surely as he knew his own name. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity really was. The stealth ship Shadow glided through Calric space completely undetected. It was painted black, covered in materials that absorbed sensor readings and small enough to slip past the Empire's patrol routes. Inside, Captain Lisa Monroe checked her equipment one more time. She had assembled the best team Earth had for this mission. Lieutenant Jake Morrison handled weapons and tactics. Sergeant Amy Chen managed communications and electronic warfare. 3 other specialists completed the team. Medical Officer Chris Davies, Demolitions Expert Rachel Stone, and Infiltration Specialist Kevin Price. We're approaching the target station, Amy whispered from the pilot's seat. I'm picking up the signature from Ethan's tracking implant. He's definitely inside. All Earth citizens who traveled beyond human space had tiny tracking devices implanted under their skin. It was a safety measure, though most people never expected to need it. Ethan's implant was broadcasting a weak signal from somewhere in the station's detention level. How many guards? Lisa asked. Amy studied her screens. I count approximately 40 Calric soldiers on the station. Most are concentrated in the command center and the hangar bays. Only 4 near the detention level. Good, we go in quiet. No shooting unless absolutely necessary. Our job is to get Ethan and get out before they even know we're here. The Shadow docked at a maintenance airlock on the station's lower levels. Kevin used a device that mimicked Calric's access codes, and the door opened silently. The team slipped inside, weapons ready. The interior of the Calric station was just as hot and dark as Ethan had described the ship. Lisa led her team through service corridors, avoiding main hallways where they might encounter patrols. They moved like ghosts, years of training making each step precise and silent. They reached the detention level without incident. Through a small window, Lisa could see 2 Calric's guards standing outside a row of cells. She signaled to Jake, who nodded and took position with his rifle. 2 quick shots, almost silent with the suppressor. Both guards dropped before they could raise an alarm. The team rushed forward. Which cell? Lisa asked Amy. 3rd one on the left. Kevin worked on the lock while Chris and Rachel kept watch down the corridor. The door hissed open and Lisa stepped inside. Ethan Brooks sat on a metal bench looking up in surprise. He was bruised and exhausted, but alive. When he saw the black uniforms and the Earth insignia, tears filled his eyes. We're getting you out of here, Lisa said simply. There are others, Ethan said quickly. 3 more humans. The Calrics captured a civilian freighter last month. The crew is being held 2 levels down. Lisa hesitated. Their mission was to extract Ethan. Going after more prisoners meant more risk, more time for things to go wrong. But she thought about those other humans trapped and probably suffering just like Ethan had. Amy, can you locate them? Amy pulled up the station's layout on her portable scanner. Got them. 3 life signs matching human biology. Detention level 3. Then that's where we're going. Move out. They made their way down 2 levels. This time there were 6 guards. Lisa couldn't risk using suppressed weapons with so many targets. She looked at Jake and nodded. They burst from the corridor firing. The Calrix guards barely had time to react. In 15 seconds, all 6 were down. But the gunfire had been loud. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Grab the prisoners and run," Lisa ordered. Kevin opened the cells while Amy and Jake covered the corridors. Inside were 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing the remnants of civilian clothing. They looked even worse than Ethan, beaten and malnourished. "Can you move?" Lisa asked them. "Yes," said one of the men, a middle-aged freighter captain named Carl Jenkins. "Whatever you need us to do. Then follow us and don't fall behind." The team ran through the corridors with their rescued humans. Behind them, they could hear Calrix soldiers mobilizing. The station's entire garrison was now looking for them. They reached the hangar bay where the Shadow was docked, but 20 Calrix soldiers blocked their path. There was no way around them and no time for a clever plan. "Rachel, blow the bulkhead," Lisa ordered. Rachel threw 3 charges against the wall to their left. "Fire in the hole!" The explosion tore through the metal, opening a path into an adjacent corridor. The team rushed through while Jake and Amy provided covering fire. Calrix energy weapons lit up the hallway, scorching the walls where the humans had been seconds before. They reached the Shadow and piled inside. Amy sealed the hatch and threw the ship into full thrust. The stealth ship tore away from the station just as more Calrix vessels arrived. "We've got 4 fighters on our tail," Amy reported. "Can you lose them?" "Not a chance. They're faster than us." Lisa opened a communication channel to Admiral Cole. "Shadow to Valiant. We have the package plus 3 additional rescued civilians, but we've got company and can't shake them." Marcus's voice came back immediately. "We see you, Shadow. Help is on the way. Hang tight." 8 seconds later, the space around them lit up with weapons fire, but it wasn't aimed at the Shadow. 3 Earth destroyers dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly between the Shadow and the pursuing Calrix fighters. The destroyers opened fire with everything they had. The Calrix fighters didn't stand a chance. They were destroyed in moments, reduced to expanding clouds of debris and vapor. "Shadow, you are clear," said the lead destroyer captain. "Proceed to the Valiant." As the Shadow flew toward safety, Lisa looked back at Ethan and the other rescued humans. They were staring out the viewport at something beyond the ship. Lisa turned to look and felt her breath catch. Dozens of Earth ships filled the space around them. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels. The Third Fleet had arrived in force, and they weren't alone. More ships continued to appear as other fleets dropped out of FTL travel. "My God," Ethan whispered. "Is that all for us?" Lisa nodded slowly. "Earth doesn't negotiate. We retrieve." On the Valiant, Admiral Marcus Cole watched the tactical display. His fleet was in position. Every ship reported ready. He opened a channel to all captains. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have our people back. Mission accomplished. We could leave now, return home and celebrate. But there's one more thing we need to do." He paused, looking at the Calrix territory spread across his screens. "The Calrix took our people. They tortured them. They killed 2 civilians from that freighter before we could reach them, and they broadcast it all, thinking we would be too weak to respond. It's time to correct that misconception. It's time to show the entire galaxy what happens when you harm humanity." He pulled up the tactical plans they had prepared. "All ships execute Operation Thunderstrike. Primary targets are military installations and shipyards. Secondary targets are government centers and industrial complexes. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. If it supports the Calrix war machine, burn it down." The fleet moved forward as one. They entered Calrix space from 7 different vectors, hitting multiple systems simultaneously. The Calrix fleet tried to respond, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human ships didn't follow the traditional rules of galactic warfare. They didn't exchange formal challenges or limit their weapons to preserve enemy lives. They fought the way humans had fought each other for thousands of years, with overwhelming violence designed to break the enemy's will to resist. Railguns accelerated tungsten rods to near-light speed, punching through Calrix shields and armor like paper. Nuclear missiles detonated in calculated patterns, destroying entire battle groups. And for the most heavily defended targets, humanity deployed weapons the Calrix didn't even know existed. Nanomachine swarms that disassembled ships atom by atom. Biological agents specifically engineered to target Calrix physiology. Weapons that humanity had developed during their darkest periods, then locked away when they achieved peace. Now those weapons were unleashed on an alien empire that thought humans were weak. The Calric's Third Fleet moved to defend their home system. They had 80 ships, more than enough to handle any normal threat. The human Second Fleet met them with 40 vessels. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the Calric's Third Fleet no longer existed. The humans lost 3 ships. Across Calric space, the pattern repeated. Every military installation was reduced to rubble. Every shipyard was obliterated. The Empire's defensive fleet was scattered, then hunted down and destroyed. In his command ship, Thrax watched his empire burn. Reports flooded in from every system. Defeat after defeat. The humans were everywhere, and they were unstoppable. How is this possible? He demanded. They are newcomers. They have been in space for less than a century. His intelligence officer studied the tactical data with growing horror. Commander, I have analyzed their tactics. These are not the methods of a young species. These are refined strategies developed over hundreds or thousands of years of warfare. The humans have been fighting each other since before they reached the stars. They have perfected the art of war. Thrax felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Real, genuine fear for the survival of his people. Contact the humans, he ordered. Tell them we surrender. We will return their people. We will pay reparations. Anything they want. The communication officer shook his head. I have been trying, Commander. They do not respond to our messages. The bombardment continued, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the Galactic Council chamber on the neutral station Unity held representatives from 43 different species. They had gathered an emergency session to address what everyone was calling the human situation. Ambassador Claire Peterson stood at the human podium, wearing a simple blue suit. She was calm and composed, even though every eye in the chamber was fixed on her with a mixture of fear and anger. The Vryn delegate, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Helix, spoke first. His translated voice echoed through the chamber. Ambassador Peterson, humanity's actions against the Calric's Empire are unprecedented in modern galactic history. Your fleets have destroyed 16 Calric's military installations, 42 shipyards, and countless industrial facilities. Millions are dead. When will this assault end? Claire looked at Helix with steady eyes. When we are satisfied that the Calric's Empire no longer poses a threat to human life. Not before. But you have already rescued your hostages, protested the Therian representative, a bird-like being with bright purple feathers. The stated goal of your military action was retrieval. You have succeeded. Why do you continue this destruction? Because retrieval was not our only goal, Claire replied. The Calrics did not simply take Dr. Brooks hostage. They tortured him. They broadcast that torture to intimidate us, and we learned that they had captured and killed other humans before him. 2 members of the civilian freighter crew we rescued were already dead when our team arrived. She paused, letting that sink in. So no, simply getting our people back is not enough. The Calric's Empire needs to understand, and through them, every species in this galaxy needs to understand. There are consequences for harming humans. The Dravian ambassador, a massive reptilian creature not unlike the Calrics themselves, leaned forward. You speak of consequences, but what you are doing is genocide. You are exterminating an entire species for the actions of a few military commanders. We are not exterminating the Calrics, Claire corrected. We are destroying their military capabilities and the infrastructure that supports it. Calric civilians who do not resist are being evacuated from military targets. We are not targeting population centers. But make no mistake, the Calric's Empire as it existed is finished. When this is over, they will not have the means to threaten anyone ever again. Helix's tendrils quivered with agitation. The Council demands that humanity cease this assault immediately. We propose economic sanctions and the formation of a peacekeeping force to no. The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. Claire's expression hadn't changed, but something in her tone made several delegates step back. I say this with all due respect to this council, Claire continued. Earth does not recognize your authority to dictate our defensive actions. The Calric's Empire committed acts of war against human citizens. We are responding. If this council wishes to discuss the matter after we have finished, we would be happy to participate in such discussions. But we will not stop because you are uncomfortable with what you are seeing. The chamber erupted in protests. Delegates shouted over each other, some demanding humanity be expelled from the council, others calling for military intervention. Claire waited for them to quiet down. When they finally did, she spoke again. I understand your concern. I do. You look at humanity's military power and you are afraid. You should be afraid. We nearly destroyed ourselves with that power before we learned to control it. But understand this, we are not the aggressors here. We did not take hostages. We did not torture civilians. We warned the Calrics to return our people unharmed. They refused and escalated. Every death that has occurred since then is a direct result of their choice. She pulled up a holographic display showing the timeline of events. 72 hours ago, the Calrics took Dr. Brooks hostage. 48 hours ago, they tortured him on camera. 36 hours ago, we discovered they had killed 2 other human prisoners. At each point, they could have stopped. They could have released our people and avoided conflict. They chose violence. We are simply responding in kind. The Vryn delegate spoke again. But the scale of your response is disproportionate. One human tortured does not justify the destruction of an empire. Claire's expression hardened. That's where you and humanity fundamentally disagree. To us, every human life has value. Absolute value. When the Calrics took Ethan Brooks, they didn't take one human. They took a son, a friend, a colleague, a citizen of Earth. They took someone who belongs to our community, our family. And when they hurt him, they hurt all of us. She gestured to the display. You call our response disproportionate. We call it appropriate. We are sending a message that will echo across every star system in this galaxy. Humanity protects its own with absolute conviction. Harm one of us, and you answer to all of us. On the Calric's homeworld, Emperor Crathan watched the bombardment of his capital city's orbital defense platforms. The massive weapons that had guarded his throne world for 3 centuries were being systematically destroyed by human ships. His advisors cowered in the corners of his throne room. Half of them had already fled. The others remained only because they had nowhere left to run. Your Majesty, said General Vorn, the highest-ranking military officer who remained. We must evacuate. The humans will be in bombardment range of the surface within the hour. No, Crathan said. He was old for a Calrix, his scales turning gray with age. He had ruled the Empire for 43 years. In all that time, he had never known defeat. Contact the human fleet. Tell them I wish to speak to their commander. 10 minutes later, Admiral Marcus Cole's face appeared on the throne room screen. He looked at the Calrix Emperor with cold, analytical eyes. I am Emperor Crathan, the old Calrix began. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. There are no terms to discuss, Marcus replied. Your empire is defeated. Your fleets are destroyed. Your military installations are ruins. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will continue our assault until there is nothing left to surrender. Please, Crathan said, and the word tasted like poison in his mouth. He had never begged for anything in his life. My people are not all warriors. We have civilians, families, children. They had nothing to do with the decision to take your scientist. Then you should have thought of them before you authorized the torture of Dr. Brooks, Marcus said. But unlike the Calrix Empire, humanity does not make war on civilians. We are targeting military and industrial facilities only. Your people will survive, but your empire as a military power is finished. What do you want from us? Marcus pulled up a document. These are Earth's terms. You will read them carefully. You have 2 hours to accept. The terms were harsh. The Calrix Empire would be reduced to a single star system. All military vessels would be destroyed. All weapons manufacturing would cease. A human monitoring force would be stationed in Calrix space to ensure compliance. The Empire would pay reparations to the families of the humans they had killed. And Thrax, along with every commander involved in the hostage situation, would be turned over to Earth for trial. These terms will destroy us, Crathan said quietly. No, Marcus corrected. They will save you. We could wipe out your entire species if we chose. We have the weapons. We have the will. These terms allow your people to survive and rebuild, but you will rebuild as a peaceful species. You will never again threaten humanity or anyone else. Crathan looked at the terms again. He was being given a choice between survival and extinction. It wasn't really a choice at all. I accept your terms. Good. You have 6 hours to begin evacuating military personnel from the installations we have marked for destruction. After that, we will proceed with final strikes. We will confirm receipt of Commander Thrax and the other responsible officers within 24 hours. If they are not delivered, the agreement is void. The screen went dark. Crathen sat on his throne and looked around at his empty court. The mighty Calrix Empire, which had ruled 17 systems and subjugated countless species, had been brought to its knees in less than 4 days, all because they had underestimated a species they thought was weak. On Earth, the news of the Calrix surrender spread quickly. In cities across the planet, people gathered in the streets to celebrate, not because they enjoyed war, but because their people had been brought home safely. President Victoria Grant addressed the planet from the White House. Today, the Calrix Empire has surrendered unconditionally. Dr. Ethan Brooks and the other rescued civilians are safe and receiving medical care. The brave soldiers who risked their lives to save them are returning home. She paused and her expression became more serious. But let me be clear about what happened here. We did not seek this conflict. We sent peaceful explorers into space, hoping to build friendships with other species. The Calrix saw that peace is weakness. They learned at great cost that they were wrong. Humanity has shown the galaxy our true nature. We are capable of great violence when necessary, but that violence is always in service of protecting our people and our values. We will continue to explore. We will continue to seek peaceful relations with all species, but we will never again allow anyone to mistake our peaceful intentions for weakness. In the medical bay of the Valiant, Ethan Brooks watched the president's speech on a small screen. His injuries were healing, though the doctors. 6 months after the Calrix surrender, Ethan Brooks stood at a window overlooking the Calrix homeworld. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, its cities intact despite the war. True to their word, humanity had targeted only military and industrial sites. The civilian population had survived largely unharmed, but the Calrix Empire itself was gone. Where once 17 star systems flew the Calrix banner, now only one remained. The other systems had been granted independence, allowed to govern themselves. Some had joined the Galactic Council, others remained isolated, trying to rebuild. Ethan was here as Earth's ambassador to the Calrix remnant. It was a controversial appointment. Some people thought he should rest, should recover from his trauma. Others thought sending him back to the Calrix was cruel, forcing him to face the species that had tortured him. But Ethan had insisted. He understood something that many didn't. If humanity wanted lasting peace, it couldn't just win the war. It had to win the peace that followed. A Calrix delegate entered the observation deck. Her name was Scythia, and she represented the new civilian government that had formed after Emperor Crathen's abdication. She was younger than most Calrix leaders, her scales still bright green without the gray of age. "Ambassador Brooks," she said, inclining her head respectfully, "thank you for meeting with me." "Of course, Delegate Scythia. What can I do for you?" Scythia moved to the window looking down at her homeworld. "I wanted to apologize, personally, for what Thrax did to you." "For what my people did?" Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to apologize. You weren't involved. But I am Calrix. We all bear the shame of what happened. Our empire built itself on intimidation and cruelty. We convinced ourselves that strength meant the willingness to harm others. We were wrong, and millions of my people paid the price for that error. Millions of your people paid the price for their leaders' decisions." Ethan corrected gently. "That's different. I don't hold the Calrix people responsible for what their government did." Scythia looked at him with her yellow eyes. "How can you be so forgiving?" "After what was done to you?" Ethan was quiet for a moment, remembering the cell, the pain, the fear. Then he said, "Because holding on to anger won't help anyone. What happened to me was terrible. But if I let it turn me bitter, if I let it make me hate all Calrix, then Thrax wins. He wanted to break humanity's spirit. I won't let him break mine." "Your people are not what we expected," Scythia said. "We thought you were weak because you explored peacefully. We learned the hard way that peace was a choice, not a necessity. But even now, after what we did, you help us. You send food and medical supplies. You help us rebuild. Why?" "Because that's what good people do," Ethan replied. "Yes, we destroyed your military. We had to. You were a threat, but now you're not enemies. You're just people trying to survive and rebuild. And humanity believes in giving people second chances." Below them, on the planet's surface, human aid workers moved through a Calrix city, distributing supplies and helping to rebuild damaged infrastructure. It was strange to see humans and Calrix working side by side after such a brutal conflict. On Earth, Admiral Marcus Cole stood in the Global Defense Council chambers, presenting his after-action report. The room was filled with military and civilian leaders from every nation. The operation was a complete success from a military standpoint, Marcus explained, showing tactical displays of the campaign. We achieved total dominance in 4 days. Calric's military capabilities have been neutralized. The Empire no longer poses a threat to humanity or any other species. What about casualties? Asked one of the council members. Human casualties were minimal. 43 personnel killed in action, 112 wounded. Calric's military casualties are estimated at 2 million. Civilian casualties were under 10,000, mostly from accidents and collateral damage during evacuations. The room was silent. 2 million Calrics dead? It was a staggering number, even if most were military personnel. Do you think the response was proportionate, Admiral? Asked another council member. Marcus considered the question carefully. Proportionate is the wrong word. Was it necessary? Yes. The Calrics needed to be defeated decisively, so thoroughly that no one would question the outcome. If we had held back, if we had shown any weakness, other hostile species would have seen an opportunity. We would face more hostage situations, more conflicts. He pulled up another display, showing diplomatic communications from across the galaxy. Since the Calrics' surrender, we have received 47 requests for formal diplomatic relations. Species that previously ignored us now want alliances. Trade agreements have tripled. And most importantly, we have had 0 incidents of humans being threatened or harmed in space. So the galaxy is afraid of us, said President Victoria Grant, who was observing the meeting. Yes, Madam President, but they also respect us. Fear alone wouldn't generate the positive diplomatic contacts we're seeing. They're afraid of our military power, yes, but they're also impressed by our restraint. We could have exterminated the Calrics. We chose not to. We could have taken their territory. We chose not to. That combination of power and restraint is what really matters. Victoria nodded slowly. And the monitoring force in Calric space? How is that progressing? Smoothly. Captain Monroe has established 3 orbital stations to oversee compliance with the surrender terms. The Calric's government has been cooperative. They're actually requesting human advisors to help them transition to a peaceful society. Lisa Monroe's assignment to oversee the Calric's monitoring force had been her choice. She could have returned to Earth a hero, received medals and accolades. Instead, she chose to stay and finish the job. On the monitoring station oversight, Lisa reviewed daily reports from her teams. The Calrics were complying with every term of the surrender. Their remaining military vessels had been peacefully dismantled. Weapons manufacturing facilities had been converted to produce civilian goods. War criminals, including Thrax, had been turned over for trial. Captain, we're receiving a communication from the Galactic Council, said Lieutenant Jake Morrison, who had chosen to stay on as her second-in-command. Ambassador Peterson wants to speak with you. Claire's face appeared on the screen. Captain Monroe, I wanted to update you on the Council situation. They formally recognized Earth's actions against the Calrics as justified self-defense. The vote was 38-5. That's a significant change from 6 months ago, Lisa observed. They wanted to sanction us then. Fear is a powerful motivator, Claire said with a slight smile. But so is respect. The Council has proposed new protocols for hostage situations. Essentially, they're adopting humanity's approach. No negotiations, immediate rescue operations, and severe consequences for hostage takers. So we've changed galactic policy. We've changed a lot of things. Lisa. The balance of power, the way species interact with each other, the understanding of what humanity represents. For better or worse, we're not newcomers anymore. We're a major player. After the call ended, Lisa stood at the observation window looking out at the Calric's homeworld below. She thought about Ethan, about the hostages they'd saved, about the Calric soldiers they'd killed. War was never simple. Even righteous wars left scars. Jake came to stand beside her. Do you ever regret it? What we did? No, Lisa said honestly. I regret that it was necessary. I wish the Calrics had never taken Ethan. I wish those 2 million Calric soldiers hadn't died. But given the situation we were in, we did what we had to do. And I'd do it again if I had to. The galaxy sees us differently now. Good, let them see us clearly. We're not saints. We're not monsters. We're humans. We're capable of great kindness and terrible violence. As long as other species understand both sides, we can build real peace. On the Calric's homeworld, Ethan gave a lecture at what had once been their military academy. It was now being converted into a university, focused on peaceful sciences and diplomacy. The room was filled with young Calric students, the generation that would rebuild their civilization. Humanity nearly destroyed itself, Ethan told them. We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions. We developed weapons that could have rendered Earth uninhabitable. We came very close to extinction multiple times. The students listened intently. This was history they had never learned. The mighty humans who had defeated their empire had almost defeated themselves first. What saved us was a simple realization, Ethan continued. Violence is easy. Destroying is easy. Building and creating and cooperating, that's hard. But it's worth it. When we finally learned to work together, when we channeled our competitive nature into science and art and exploration instead of war, we accomplished more in 1 century than we had in the previous 10. A young Calric student raised her hand. But you still have weapons. You still have the capacity for violence. How do we trust that you won't use it against us again? It was a fair question. Ethan thought carefully about his answer. You don't have to trust that we won't use violence, he said. You have to trust that we only use it for the right reasons. Humanity will always have military power. We've learned that lesson too well to ever be defenseless. But we only use that power to protect our people and defend those who can't defend themselves. He paused, then added, Your people made a mistake. You saw our